Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 204 of In the Growth Space. My name's David McGlennon, and I am so grateful you're here. You know, on this podcast, we are helping leaders to grow in all aspects of their lives, both personally and professionally. One of my mentors, Michael Hyatt, will call that the double win, being able to win at work and win at life. And I just absolutely love that. And so if this is your first time on the podcast listening in, thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate it. If it brings you value, I would really love if you just went out and rated the podcast. And then if there's something that you were to take away from today that is helpful, that helps you to grow, I would also love it if you just maybe wrote a one or two sentences in the review section of your podcast app. So today's episode is all about growth around feedback. And I know so many leaders that have such a hard time with feedback. And I always share that feedback, really there's two kinds. Both kinds are good. And one is developmental. It's like, hey, try this next time. Or motivational. Hey, keep doing this. So motivational feedback and developmental feedback. Those are two kinds of feedback, but today's guest is really probably going to talk more about having effective feedback and ineffective feedback. As a matter of fact, he has a framework that he's going to talk through with us today to be able to help us understand how we can give more effective feedback. But Jeff Hancher is a true leader's leader. He's not only an amazing leader, but he is a great friend as well. And quite frankly, he is a product of leadership development and personal growth. And for those of you who were at my very first Inner Circle Summit back in 2019, he was our keynote speaker. He's also been on the podcast. I think this is his third time on the podcast. So I'm really grateful that he's here today. So Jeff is a leadership expert dedicated to helping individuals and organizations reach their fullest potential. And after starting in an entry-level position to try to support his sick parents, Jeff built a 20-year career in leadership roles with a Fortune 500 company. And in 2020, he quit his job to build his own business dedicated to helping equip leaders to reach their full potential. In his book, Firm Feedback in a Fragile World, Jeff redefines how we approach feedback in the workplace. He combines relatable stories, research, and practical tools, and he offers a roadmap to turn feedback from a source of tension into a powerful leadership tool. He provides actionable insights that help leaders and employees alike navigate feedback with confidence and clarity. I am so grateful to have Jeff back on the podcast. Let's get into the conversation I had with Jeff right now. Well, Jeff, I am really excited to have you back on In the Growth Space podcast, man. I think this is like your third time here. And this time it's really exciting because we've got a lot to talk about.
We sure do. And by the way, I don't know if I've told you this, but you are in the tied for the record of most episodes on my
How
podcast,
about that?
with three
I,
three
I
episodes.
love it, man.
So we got to get you back on so you can be
I,
the lone record
I
holder.
want to
But
break the tie, man. I always like being on top there.
but it's
Oh,
so good to be back on. Love your work, love
man.
your audience that you're serving, and it's just an honor to be back and having the leadership conversation.
Well, dude, you are just a standard setter, and I think that when I was at your workshop not too long ago, I just continue to be blown away at the things that you're doing, the impact you're having, and the deposits that you're making in leaders' lives, and just how you raise the bar for everybody who is developing leaders in the world that we live in today. And I know that that's at your heart such a deep, you have such a deep passion. And I want to talk with you about the book that you just wrote and is getting ready to be released soon. But before we do that, what led you to, really have this passion for leadership? How did that get started?
That's a great opening question because there's a lot of leadership content out there. There's a
Yeah,
lot of leadership influences out there. I don't want to just be in the people pile. I
right.
had a good job. I
Yeah.
had a secure retirement. I left all of that to do this because I believe it's my calling. It's something I'm passionate about.
Mm,
And this started to manifest this passion for developing leaders really based off of who I realized that I had become.
mm,
And I am a product of great leadership.
that's great.
I won't go into the whole story, but I grew up in very gross poverty, had two very, very sick parents.
Mm,
That led to a lot of dysfunction.
mm,
Their illnesses, a mom that had lupus, a dad that had chronic osteoarthritis. They were always in pain.
mm,
This led to prescriptions. Prescriptions led to, substance abuse. This bad situation just kept getting worse.
wow.
And you have two teenage boys, me and my brother, that were just misguided, no direction, not really good in school, didn't really know what we wanted out of life, knew we didn't want the life that we had, but didn't know how to get there. I go to the military, thank goodness, because it really helped me grow up and get
Mm,
structure. And I leave the military, I transition. I'm going to go to college on the GI Bill. And I'm a couple weeks from starting, and my dad calls and informs me they're sending mom home in hospice. Well,
wow.
at this moment, he's also having a leg amputation due to infection.
Wow.
And so you have this scenario playing out where I did what anybody listening would do. You put college on the back burner. I went home, got the nurses set up, got things established, and I would just wanted a seasonal job. I'm thinking 4 to 5 months, help my parents pay bills. I mean, the motivation then was help so mom doesn't have to cut pills in half to get from copay to copay.
Wow.
And I didn't have a lot of skill, so I did what we did back in the day, and I went and bought a newspaper and looked for a job.
Sure.
And because I didn't have a lot of skill, I was just looking for a blue collar grind job, and I found just that. And I became a truck driver at Cintas Uniform Company in 1996.
Mm,
And what I thought was going to be a seasonal job ended up being a 24-year career.
hmm,
And I'd love to tell you that through the 11 promotions I had at Cintas, it's because I'm amazing. But the reality is, I had some of the greatest leaders
mm,
that helped me create a life that I didn't even know was possible.
wow.
Then I find myself in this leadership role where I can now help others do the same.
Mm-hmm.
And the more I learned about leadership, the more my passion grew. And I wanted to find young Jeff Hanchers
Mm-hmm.
and serve them and help them find their potential. And it just became a mission.
Yeah.
So much so that I quit the job that I loved, the company that I loved, and now I get to wake up every day and serve leaders. And I'm so excited about it. But that's the passion behind the book.
That's so
Firm
good.
feedback in a fragile world. There was plenty of it given to me
Yeah.
by leaders, and they did it well, and it transformed who I became.
Man, Jeff, that is so powerful. And I want to just pause for a second to say to the leaders who are listening that one of the things that you are responsible for is to find the young Jeff Hanchers like his mentors did, like his leaders did, and helped him to learn, to grow, and to grow into a leader. Because I think sometimes we think of leadership is all about us and all about us developing. But quite frankly, I mean, and yes, it is, but quite frankly, at some point we have to shift and we have to then pour into other people. And I'm so grateful for the people who poured into you and helped you to
Mm,
develop that passion and that growth
yeah.
process. What a beautiful story, man. I so appreciate you sharing that. So good. So good.
Yeah, absolutely. It's transformative, right?
Yeah.
Leadership. We're a product of good leadership or bad leadership.
Right.
We're all a product of that.
Yep. Exactly.
Including parents,
Yep.
coaches, teachers, bosses. We're all a product of it.
Yeah.
And, this thought of challenging feedback,
Yeah.
it's really not taught well.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of leaders avoid it
Yep.
now more than ever with, retention being hard,
Yep.
attracting talent is hard. But if I were to ask you and the listener to list your Mount Rushmore of leaders, the ones that like, man, if it wasn't for that leader, I wouldn't be who I am.
Mm-hmm.
You can think pretty quickly of who they are because they had such an impact. And if I were to ask you, were they tough on you?
Mm-hmm.
The answer is always yes.
Yes, of course.
But the follow-up is, did they care? And the answer is like, absolutely.
Yep.
So these Mount Rushmore leaders in your life, they became leaders you didn't want to let down.
Right.
And they were tough on you.
Mm.
And I'm telling you with that example that it's possible to be tough-minded and firm, but also care deeply.
Mm-hmm.
I had a
Yeah.
sales manager, his name was Sean. He promoted me into sales from a truck driver.
Mm.
That was my goal. I mean, David, salespeople drove Honda Accords. You know what I'm talking about? I
Yeah.
needed to be in this role.
You
They
needed that
they
Honda
dressed.
Accord.
I mean, I needed a Honda Accord. They dressed fancy,
That's great.
and he knew a little bit about my background
Mm.
and promoted me because he believed in what was possible.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember the first few months, him taking me into the men's room and teaching me how to tie a Windsor knot.
Yeah,
I
man.
remember
Oh,
him
that's
giving me
cool.
some of his ties from his closet that he didn't
Wow.
maybe wear a lot.
Yeah.
He took me to Joseph A. Bank and taught me that your belt and shoes are supposed to match and the difference between a sport coat and a suit coat.
Yeah.
Things that I didn't know. I didn't know what a collar stay was. I grew up very humble.
Yeah.
I knew what bib overalls and Carhartts were, but I didn't know how to be a white collar professional.
Sure.
And here's this guy making these deposits. This is the same
Mm.
guy that realized that I was struggling early in my tenure.
Mm.
And he would pull me into the office after hours and role play with me
Oh, that's
and
cool.
help me learn interest creating statements and help me learn the art of overcoming objections with feel, felt, found, and just pouring these deposits into me. And I'm on a roll.
Hmm.
Like I'm pacing President's Club as in my rookie year
Wow.
until I got another call from my dad, which was, you need to get to the hospital.
Mm.
And I'll never forget this
That's
morning,
really good.
David. Now, look, I had gotten that call a lot. So it's kind of like robotic, go to the
Sure.
hospital, check on things.
Yeah.
But this morning it was different
Mm.
because this morning my mom passed.
Mm. Wow.
She's gone.
Mm.
And David, I went into a really dark place.
Mm. Yeah.
We were just looking at homes to get my parents out of their one bedroom apartment in the high rise to an actual neighborhood.
Wow.
I was driving a Honda Accord. I mean, life was good.
Yeah.
And this happened, like
Mm.
I lost the will to go on.
Mm.
I went into a dark place. I was not fun to be around. I had an attitude at work.
Mm.
And this went on for several days until my sales manager pulled me into the office one day and he said, listen, I've given you time to grieve,
Mm.
but your attitude, it's unacceptable.
Mm.
And I will not sit back and watch you destroy this opportunity.
Wow.
I've spent hours with you in the car on sales calls. You have an 18-month-old son. You have a family. You told me that your motivation was you wanted it to be different for your kids.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry that your mom passed, but you need to make a decision. You need to either fix yourself and come back on this team and perform and be the person I know that you can be, or you won't be on my team.
Mm. Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now I can tell you this. The younger version of Jeff Hancher would have probably like popped him in the lip and walked out and
Sure.
quit.
Sure.
But this guy, as tough as that conversation was, I knew he cared
Yeah.
because he showed it. He didn't say it, he did it.
Yeah.
And so it was in that moment that I made that pivot back. And now that it became my battle cry.
Mm.
You know what happened after that moment?
Uh,
I was promoted 10 times.
wow. Wow.
10 times. Now, I don't know how this story would have ended, but I'm crazy enough to believe that if that guy had not come in my life,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I don't know if I'm on this show today.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
that impactful.
Wow.
But here's the thing, David, leaders aren't being taught how to do this.
Right, right.
And I'm hoping to change that.
Well, and I'm so glad that you have written this book because of just that fact that there are other Seans out there that need to know how to take those young Jeffs and to be able to give them not only the firm feedback, but more important, or as importantly, I think, it's the relationship. Because you even said, like, I didn't want to let him down. And I've had
Yes.
leaders like that as well. And I did not want to let them down. So it brought my game up to a higher level, and I had to do what it took to be able to raise my game. So man,
It's good.
yeah, so good. So, okay. So it's great that you have this passion, but why write a book? So
Yeah.
what kind of drew you to writing a book? Because I mean, it's a lot of work. I mean, you and I have talked
Mm-hmm.
privately, we've had lunch together, and I know the work that you've put in to get this book to where it is, get all of that, information out onto these pages. So what drew you there?
It is a lot of work, more than I bargained
Never
for.
imagined
And by the
probably.
way, I'm not even good at writing. I barely graduated high school. Fun story about that, though. I just went and visited my seventh grade English teacher. She's pushing 90.
I saw that. That was
And
so amazing, man. Oh my gosh.
she was just blown
So
away. There's
great.
a whole story behind it, but I'm a living proof that anything is possible. But how the book came about, I'd been procrastinating the book, to be honest.
Hmm.
And I knew I needed to do it, but I just kept pushing it off because it was going to be hard and I'm not a good writer. And let me tell you all the reasons why I
All those
suck and
stories. Yeah.
procrastinate. I'm having lunch with a great mentor of mine, Tim Elmore, and he asks me if I had written a book yet. Now, if you know Tim, he writes one a year, I think.
Right. Right.
Um, and he says, have you written a book? Because I'm telling him my goals, my vision, where I want to go, the impact I want to make. Well,
Hmm.
obvious question, have you written a book? And I said, I haven't. And he said, can you give me a good reason why? I gave him like five, what I thought were good reasons. He said, man, those are really excuses.
Oh,
He said, have you ever been like having lunch with some buddies and one of your buddies says, hey, my shingles blew off my roof last night. And the other buddy says, call David. He wrote the book on shingles. He didn't really write a book.
right.
It's a figure of speech
Right.
that somebody is an expert in something.
Mm-hmm.
He said, you're telling me about this passion. And he said, what would you write about? If you wrote a book, what would you write about? And I said, well, I have this keynote, The State of Readiness. It's about my life. That's what I
Hmm.
would write the book about. He said, absolutely not. He said, nobody cares about your story until you give them a reason to.
Oh man.
He said, what content do you deliver that's having the highest impact?
Hmm.
I said, well, my performance management workshop, I
Yes.
launched it, built it through the pandemic. I
Yep.
launched it. It has sold out every time. He said, tell me about it. He said, Jeff, he said something like this: if I wasn't a man of integrity, I would steal the idea and write the book myself.
Oh man.
He said, the world needs this book.
Yeah.
And so I poured my whole heart into it.
That's awesome.
The stories, the storyline, all of these things to give leaders this framework
Hmm.
of how do I navigate tough conversations in the fragile leadership world that we're in. There's a
Yeah.
lot going on.
Right.
There's a lot working against leaders right now.
Hmm.
And so we're going to help them build a winning culture with these critical conversations.
I love that. I love that.
That's
Well,
what led to the book.
man, those are those critical conversations. And he gave you some firm feedback there, right?
He
And
sure did.
and that's beautiful, man. So talk a little bit about the frameworks, maybe or one or two of them in the book. I've got mine on pre-order, so I haven't actually read the book yet, but I sat through your workshop, so I'm pretty sure I have a pretty good idea of what you're going to cover. But talk a little bit about the frameworks that are in there, and just how do we have some of these tough conversations, especially because we've got such a range of people in the workforce these days. We have, up to, four or maybe even five generations, different generations that have all grown up in different eras. How do we give feedback that matches each of those generations?
Yeah, I mean, you got yeah, a very diverse workforce by age, by on down the list.
Yeah.
You got quiet quitting that's costing the global economy $9 trillion a year.
Yeah.
Most leaders, not the ones listening to this show, but
Right.
most leaders are naive to think they're doing this well.
Mm-hmm.
There was a national poll that came out recently where they surveyed leaders on this subject of feedback. And 65% of the leaders said they strongly agreed that they were effective at giving feedback to their subordinates.
Hmm.
We pulled the surveys pulled in the subordinates and asked them the same question. Only 21% of their subordinates believe that they received meaningful feedback in the last 7 days.
Wow.
So we know there's a gap.
Yeah.
Where we go with this framework is a framework of expectations, feedback, and accountability.
Mm-hmm.
Most leaders will get one right and maybe two right,
Mm-hmm.
but it's rare that this happens.
Mm-hmm.
You have the aggressive leader who they swing a big stick,
Yeah.
so they're really good with accountability. You even breathe the wrong way, whack, you're getting it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not the answer because what you get when you do that is compliance.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have the other extreme. You have the passive leader who's really good at creating expectations.
Mm-hmm.
This is what I need from everybody. I need everybody to do this. This is the new policy. This is the deadline. They're very good at that. But then when those things aren't done, they run from
There's no
accountability.
accountability. Yeah.
The sweet spot is the framework. You know,
Mm-hmm.
this this earning the right to have a tough conversation,
Mm-hmm.
it starts with expectations.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine driving down the road and there's speed limit signs don't even exist. You've never seen one. They've never been invented. But you get pulled over by a police officer. You roll down the window. He throws a speeding ticket in the door, in the window, and says, "Here's your ticket. You were speeding." How would you feel? You would
Yeah.
feel like,
Right.
what is going
What's
on?
happening here? Yeah.
And you would say, well, what's the speed limit here? Figure it out. Figure it out. There's no speed limit signs, but there's accountability.
Yeah.
We have to put up speed limit signs. And I don't mean just at onboarding. I'm
Mm-hmm.
talking about we need to not only set an expectation, but regurgitate it over time. This
Mm-hmm.
isn't just for onboarding. And then how do we do that? Well, expectations, they have to be clear,
Mm-hmm.
they have to be fair,
Yeah.
they have to be reasonable, they have to be agreed upon, and the employee needs to know why meeting or exceeding the expectation is good for them.
Mm-hmm.
Because oftentimes a leader will say, I need everybody to run a 4 minute mile. Well, okay, that's what the business needs. That doesn't mean anybody's qualified
Right.
to run a 4 minute mile.
Right.
So we're literally setting people up to fail with some of our unreasonable expectations.
Mm-hmm.
People lose confidence before they even begin. And
Right.
so by doing this collaborative setting of expectations, it earns us the right to go to the next step, which is feedback.
Mm.
But it's got to start with expectations.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, getting clear on those expectations is so important, just for clarity's sake. And it seems to me too that that cycle you have to continue to repeat that over and over and over again,
Yeah.
because if saying it once is not enough. You have to continue to communicate over communicate that those expectations.
Anybody that has teenagers knows this.
True. So true. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
I have people, David, that leave my workshop and they're like, this should be a parenting workshop. And I
Exactly.
always say, who told you it wasn't?
Exactly. No doubt about it. Yeah. I've learned some of my best leadership lessons from parenting teenagers, both good and
No
bad,
doubt.
what to do and then what not to do.
It's a wild ride, isn't it?
Oh man, it sure
But hey,
is.
check this out with the teenagers, right? We all, good parents that are listening, have had to discipline their children or hold them accountable, right?
Yeah.
Rarely do you find that that child stops loving you through that.
Right. Right.
And why is that? Well, because everything that happened before the accountability,
Mm-hmm.
you're at every ball game. You read to them, you pray with them,
Yep.
you support their skills, you fan into flame their
Yep.
passions. You're doing all of these things to not tell them, but show them you care.
Hmm.
So then when you got to give the tough feedback and the accountability, we hope that we have teenagers that are like, I can't believe I let dad down.
Yep.
I'm never going to do it again. Now,
Mm.
look, every once in a while, they throw a little bit of a fit,
Yeah.
but you do it anyway. Why? Because you actually care.
Right.
You want to raise good men and women
Hmm.
that are your children. And I'm not saying that our employees are, we should treat them like children, but I am saying the principle is the same. If you care about
Right.
people, you'll have a hard conversation. But if you really care, you will earn the right. And this happens through time.
Yeah.
This happens through committing to one-on-one debriefs, which
Yes.
I'm a believer every employee in the world deserves a one-on-one debrief with their boss.
100%.
I
Oh,
just
yeah.
believe that. And the
Absolutely.
companies that tell me, and I'm sure you hear it in your world,
Yep.
oh my gosh, we don't have time for that, then hire more leaders,
Yeah,
promote more
exactly.
leaders.
Yeah.
For me, this is a full stop moment.
Yep.
We have to give these people time to ensure the expectations are clear. They've been adequately trained. But then, look, we're all human. We fall short. We got to provide feedback. How do
Yeah.
we do that?
Hmm.
We establish SMART goals. We track it.
Yep.
We set up the speed limit signs so they know what they are.
Hmm.
And then we figure out who is it that's in front of me. And here's the epiphany I talk about in the book. All feedback's not the same.
Yeah.
It's not.
Right.
If you have a peak performer, high tenure, and you give them direct feedback, good luck. Who are you going to tell me what to do? I got socks older than you, pal, right?
Yeah.
But if you give that new employee collaborative feedback,
Mm.
can you imagine day one on the job and you're like, so what do you think we should do? Collaborative. What do I think? I have no clue. I don't even know where my desk is.
Right.
Like, so we have to know who is in front of us. We can't just lean on the style of leadership that we are.
Yeah.
And so we talk about that in the book is like the different kinds of feedback and when to use it so
Mm.
that you can start at least realizing that feedback is a tool belt.
Yeah. So you'd mentioned two types of feedback. They're collaborative and direct. Are there others? Are there other kinds of feedback that that leaders need to kind of be aware of? Because you talked about, somebody who is tenured and giving them that direct feedback. That probably isn't going to go so well, and rightly so. And then that new employee, if we did that collaborative type of feedback, that's not going to go very well either because they don't know enough. So what are some other kinds of feedback that we need to know about that will be helpful for leaders that are listening?
The other one that's the most popular beyond direct and collaborative is supportive.
Mm.
And we've all, if you've been in leadership any length of time, you've had that peak performer
Yeah.
that goes through a valley,
Yeah.
a fall from grace, if
Yeah.
you will. By the way, that was me with the Sean story.
Yeah.
This is where we want to go, possibly to supportive.
Mm.
Now, look, let's just say that you're a sales manager listening and your peak performer falls below quota 3 months in a row.
Mm.
Are you going to pull that peak performer in and say, listen, you fell below quota. I'm writing you up. Here's what I need you to do. I need you to prospect more. I need you. They know what to do. They've hit
Right.
3 president's clubs.
Yeah.
So you don't go directive.
Mm-hmm.
You might want to go collaborative, which can usually bleed into supportive.
Mm.
Collaborative is, hey, what do you need from me?
Mm-hmm.
How can I help?
Mm-hmm.
If Michael Jordan went into a shooting slump, his coach didn't start teaching him the mechanics of shooting a basketball.
Right.
He said, keep shooting the ball.
Right.
I've seen what you can do.
Yeah.
I believe in you. That's
Yeah.
supportive.
Right.
What do you need from me?
Mm.
Is there anything that's holding you back from performing as normal?
Mm.
When we start asking these supportive type questions,
Yeah.
you know what we might hear, David? We might hear, listen, my mom was put in hospice. It's not looking good.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, if I can be frank, my son is battling through substance abuse and it's destroying our family.
Mm-hmm.
Is that when the leader steps up and says, well, look, the quota's the quota.
Right.
I don't know what to tell you. No,
No.
you go into supportive. We are leading people here.
Right.
We're playing the long game.
Mm-hmm.
We go into a supportive role.
Yeah.
That's what Sean did. Sean didn't say, you know what? I know your mom died. Don't worry about the numbers.
Mm.
They are what they are.
Mm.
No, he gave me time. He supported me.
Sure.
But came a point that he said, look, enough's enough.
Mm-hmm.
I'm
Mm-hmm.
here for you.
Right.
I believe in you. but it's time to perform.
Yeah.
We have to know if we go directive in that moment, we're going to kill people.
Right.
We're going to destroy people.
Mm-hmm.
If you go too supportive or collaborative with that new employee,
Mm-hmm.
or another place that we need directive, David, is impending events, safety issues.
Oh yeah, sure.
Somebody's backing up backwards to an open door at a dock.
Mm-hmm.
That's not the time for collaborative feedback.
No, that's right. Yeah.
That's the time for direct feedback,
Yeah,
right? So
exactly.
we just have to know that if you get nothing else out of today's discussion, know that there are multiple kinds of feedback.
Yeah.
The book is going to help you decide when to use them. Because so many times what we create in our leadership is what we call a leadership style. We'll even have some leaders brag about it. They'll say, "Hi, I'm your boss, and I'm very firm and direct. I call things as I see them." It's like, everybody buckle up. This is going to be miserable. We just know it is, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's just how I am. And why are you that way? Well, probably because that's how your parents were. That's
Yep.
how your former boss was.
Right.
That doesn't mean you're right.
That's right. Yeah.
Great leaders don't want to be right. They want to figure out what's right.
Yes.
So they're not just looking to assign speeding tickets.
Mm-hmm.
They're looking to change and improve behavior so
Mm-hmm.
that people can reach their potential.
Yeah.
We do that through tactful leadership and understanding the dynamics of feedback.
Man, that's so good, Jeff, because, that I was just telling a group of emerging leaders today about the fact is that leadership is hard because it's all about people. And people are
Yeah.
so unique and so different, and they need different kinds of feedback in different situations. And I guess, as I think about it, I was going to ask you about how do you use those types of feedback for the different generations that are in the workforce. And I don't know if you have any thoughts on that or not, but by virtue of just every leader being different, I know that we have to know the people so that we can then use these tools appropriately. It's like anything. We may have a hammer, we may have a screwdriver, but we need to know when we use those things. And I'm sure these tools are the same way.
They really are. And I would say, regardless of gender, regardless of age, the how we deliver feedback will vary, but the principles are consistent.
Mm-hmm.
This gets back to this one-on-one debrief time, right?
Yeah.
If I have an employee that is 80 years old and I pull them into a debrief, one of the questions that I want to ask them is, what does success look like for you here?
Right. Yeah.
And why is that important to you?
Mm-hmm.
What do you need from me?
Yep.
If you had to identify your weaknesses, what are they?
Mm-hmm.
Are you interested in getting better in those areas?
Yeah.
See, all I'm doing is asking questions.
Questions. Yeah, exactly.
Now think about what Sean did in this moment for me. He reminded me of why success was important to me.
Yeah.
He reminded me of my 18-month-old son.
Yeah.
He reminded me that I told him that I didn't want my kids to feel the same pain I felt as a kid. That was my driver. He reminded me of that in the hardest moment, right? And so we just have to understand that this earning the right to have a tough conversation, it comes through what happens before the tough conversation,
Right.
these one-on-one connections.
Mm-hmm.
So whether you're 80 or you're 18,
Yeah.
when we start asking questions and then we look at personality, we look at performance, we look at tenure, we start thinking about, what feedback tool am I pulling out?
Yeah.
But this is possible. Here's a quick role play that everybody listening will resonate with.
Sure.
And me and you are friends, so
Yeah.
I know that you'll be a good sport, David.
Absolutely.
So David, if me and you are at a business conference or a leader summit, and we're on break, and I smell a foul odor coming from your mouth, your breath is stinking. Would you want me to tell you?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You would. Why would that be important to you to know?
Well, because I don't want to offend people. I don't want to drive people away with my, stinky breath. So I'd want to know. Give me a mint, man. Tell me and give me a mint.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I know from talking to you in the past, your brand is important to you because you
Yep.
want to serve people.
Right.
And with stinky breath, it's harder to do.
Yep.
And so, based off what you just told me, David, if we're ever at a conference, at a business summit, whatever it might be, and I smell bad breath, I'm going to help you out. I'm going to let you know, and I'm going to get you a mint.
Yep.
Sound good?
That's great. Absolutely.
Great. 2 months from now, me and David are at a business summit, and there it is. And I just pull into my pocket and I get a hand of mints out. And I said, David, you remember a couple months ago we were speaking about first impressions, and you asked me to tell you. Do you remember that? Yeah,
Yep.
I got a mint. What would you say when I handed you the mint?
Thank you.
Thank you. Now,
Yeah.
same data, different scenario.
Yeah.
Me and you are at the convenience store. I don't know you. You're behind me in line, and I smell the same bad breath.
Yeah.
And I just turn around and I say, your breath stinks.
Mm.
You're offended?
Right.
Who are you to tell me?
Right.
The data is the same. The data is the breath stinks.
Yeah.
The difference is, in one scenario, I earned the right.
Yeah.
In the other scenario, I didn't.
Mm-hmm.
In one scenario, I provided a gift.
Mm.
In the other scenario, I'm a monster.
Yeah.
It's the same data.
Mm-hmm.
When we get this concept as leaders of earning the right to have a tough conversation, it unlocks doors, it unlocks hearts and minds
Yeah.
of those that you would have defined on your team to be the hardest of hearts and the most calloused people, even on the inside of that person, is this will to do better.
Mm-hmm.
And I truly believe that.
Yeah, for sure. You know, everything that you've shared continues to point to one of the foundations of leadership, and that is connection with people.
Yes.
Because you were just talking about everything that happened before you're giving feedback. It's the connection. It's the relationship building. It's the, tell me about your 18-month-old son, Jeff. Why is that important? Why is it important for you to, all of those questions that you used. Leaders, if you're listening, take notes, because this is great teaching. We have to connect with our people. And when we do that, we earn the right to be able to give them that feedback. The other thing you said, I thought is really important. And I know that you said this in your workshop, and it's when you're talking about feedback, you got to remember it's just data, right? It's just data, so we have to just give the data. And why are we getting all emotional about it? Why are we getting all fearful about giving data, especially if we've gone through the steps of connecting with our people, having those one-on-ones, understanding what's important to them, and asking those good questions. I just think this is phenomenal. Yeah, it's good stuff.
If you set the table the right way, it's a natural conversation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
And by the way, setting the table doesn't happen once a year in a performance review,
Exactly.
right? It happens over time.
Yeah.
But by the way, only 29% of our workforce actually believe that annual reviews are accurate anyway.
Right.
We got to give constant feedback. But if I'm having this discussion with an employee and I just ask, why is success important to you?
Mm-hmm.
And they say, well, because I don't want my mom to go into assisted living. I want to keep her in my house, but we need to hire somebody to help us, and I need to make more money. And I say, well, listen, if there was ever anything regarding your performance here at work that was holding you back from a pay raise, a promotion, or anything, would you want me to tell you? Yeah, of course I would want you to tell me.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm doing this when there's no emotion.
Right.
Because guess what? The emotion's coming. There's going to be a time that employee's late twice in 1 week, and you're going to pull them in and you're going to say something like, is it still your goal to make sure your mom doesn't go to assisted living? Yeah, of course. Well, how you're behaving doesn't represent your goal.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Is there something I need to know?
Yeah.
Is there something that we need to talk about regarding this? Now I'm giving them that nudge. Leaders have this ability when they earn the right to transform somebody into something that they didn't even think was possible.
Yeah.
They're literally borrowing our belief in them.
Yeah,
That's what
absolutely.
I did my whole life. I
Exactly.
was the least likely candidate.
Mm,
And I'll have leaders tell me, David, Jeff, this all sounds nice. This is all fluffy, but you don't know my team. These are some hard people.
mm.
I especially here in the blue collar world.
Sure, sure,
Have we ever stopped to think about why they're like that? Because that was me.
sure.
I was angry.
Mm,
I was mad.
sure.
How could I be dealt this set of cards? This is a worst case scenario. Well, think about a stray dog. When you go to help a stray dog, you can see the rib cage. They're on death's door.
Yeah.
They haven't eaten.
Mm,
They're mangy.
hmm.
They look a mess.
Yeah.
And so what do? We want to come help.
Right.
So what do? You open up the car door and say, "Hey, pup, I'm here to help. Jump in the car. You're gonna have a great life from here on out." Does the dog jump in?
No.
No. How did the dog get that way? It was probably beaten
Right. Right.
by a former owner. It
Hmm.
was probably abused. It was neglected. It was mistreated.
Yeah.
Why would you be any different? So
Hmm.
you know what we do? We break out the snacks. We
Yeah.
break out a blanket on the side of the road.
Sure.
And what do? We start developing rapport with
Rapport
this
with them.
animal.
Yeah.
And the animal begins to trust us
Mm,
and realizes over whatever period of time, we're not there to hurt them.
right.
So finally, we earn the right
Mm,
to pick them up.
yeah.
When that dog bites you originally, what do you say? Hey, easy with that. I'm just here to help.
Right.
They don't know that.
Right.
Sometimes we'll put more effort into an animal
Mm,
than we would a human.
man, that's so good, Jeff. Yeah. And
We can't get so caught up in the business results and the
yeah,
KPIs, we lose sight of the human element.
no doubt about it. And something you said there's a phrase that you've said multiple times in this conversation that I don't want our leaders listening to miss it. You said you've earned the right. You've
Mm,
earned the right. And earning means it's going to take energy. You've got to be able to put that energy in. In that story with the dog. Yeah, you've got to take energy. You've got to get out of your car. You've got to put down the little blanket. You've got to, try to calmly talk to the dog or pet it or feed it, give it snacks. And I'm not equating, our people with animals, but the
sure.
principle is the same. We've got to care enough to get out of the boat, get alongside them and earn the right. I just think that's such a powerful phrase, and I'm so glad you used it because it's really,
Mm,
really important. Now, what would you say though to those leaders who, they feel like they're given feedback all the time, and they're just like feedback till they're blue in the face. What's the recommendation to those kinds of leaders that feel like they're giving it all the time?
mm. Yeah, been there. Oh my gosh, have I been there? Been there in leadership, been there in parenting.
Yep.
Like,
Oh,
do
yeah.
you hear me?
Yep.
You feel like Charlie Brown's teacher. Like,
Wah,
am I
wah, wah,
speaking
wah. Yeah,
English?
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's a common hurdle for leaders is
Mm,
that they feel like they're saying it over and over, saying the right things. It's
hmm.
just not resonating.
Yeah.
Most likely, if that's happening, you're not really giving actionable feedback
Mm,
or
hmm.
setting clear expectations.
Yeah. Okay.
Maybe your expectations aren't reasonable. Maybe you're asking people to run a 4-minute mile
Mm,
only to find out that they have two titanium hips
yeah.
and
Yeah.
they're just set up to fail. And
Hmm.
so it's not that they're not hearing you, they're
Hmm.
just literally trying to ignore you
Hmm.
versus being disobedient.
Yeah.
So I would tell you if that's how you feel, go back and ask yourself, is what I'm expecting from my people, is it reasonable?
Mm,
Is it fair? Is it clear? Have they been adequately trained to exceed or meet the expectation? And do they have a clear understanding of why the expectation is good for them?
oh
If
yeah.
you feel like you're just blue in the face giving feedback, most likely that's it.
Mm,
Here's the other reason. You're not holding people accountable. So
yeah.
you just keep telling people what the expectation is
Without holding them
over
accountable.
and
Mm,
over and over. There's no teeth to your expectation.
hmm.
You're passive.
Yeah.
And passive leaders are liked, they're not respected.
Mm, Yeah.
You are the leadership doormat, and you know who you are if you're listening, because this happens in your social life too,
Yeah.
happens in your relationships. Well, there has to be accountability in order for people to grow.
Mm.
And so if this blue in the face moment keeps coming and coming and coming, it's either an expectations issue or you've given expectations, you've given feedback through individual development plans,
Hmm.
SMART goals, one-on-one debriefs, but they still fall short, which welcome to leadership.
Right.
They're going to.
Mm.
There has to be accountability.
Yeah.
Can you imagine speed limit signs everywhere and nobody has ever gotten a speeding ticket? What would the roadway system look like in America?
Right.
It would be pandemonium
Yep.
because nobody is bought into the expectation.
Mm.
That can
Yeah.
happen within leadership teams.
Yeah, for
And so
sure.
we have to hold people accountable. By the way, if you have set expectations and have given feedback, this accountability piece comes very, very natural. And we talk about accountability framework in the book as well.
I love that. Well, Jeff, I know that the book that you've written, Firm Feedback in a Fragile World, is going to be such a huge impact for so many leaders. And I'm so grateful that you wrote it. And I'm really grateful that you've spent some time here with me and with us on this podcast. Is there anything that I didn't ask you that maybe I should have, or that you'd like to be able to just share with the audience before we sign off?
I just want to encourage the leaders listening.
That's great.
Leadership is not easy.
No.
It's not easy.
Mm-mm.
But man, it's so fulfilling. And I specifically want to talk to that leader that might be listening that is ready to get out of the race.
Mm.
They're ready to give up. They've given it their best shot. They just don't know if it's worth it.
Mm.
If there's one thing that the world needs now, maybe more than ever before, it's great leadership.
Yeah,
It's
for sure.
great leadership. You're in this role for a reason. And
Mm.
before you give up,
Yeah.
I'm just asking you, get some help, get a mentor, buy the
Mm-hmm.
book,
Yeah.
go to the conference, dig in, because leadership, when done well,
Mm.
it's not easy, but it's the most fulfilling thing
Mm-hmm.
that there could ever be.
Mm.
This is what legacies are built on. And by the way, let's talk about legacy briefly.
Yeah.
If I were to ask you if you know the name of all four of your great grandparents, including your grandmother's maiden name, less than 1% of people know that.
Mm-hmm.
I've asked thousands of people this question.
Yeah.
And I always follow it up with, were they important, these
Mm.
people? Oh, yeah, yeah. I said, well, you don't even know their name.
Wow.
And this is your blood.
Yeah.
This is your blood. So you
Mm.
know what that means? In 2 generations,
They're forgotten.
nobody's even going to know we were here.
Yeah.
Now, I know for the listener of this show, it's going to be different.
Yeah.
But statistically speaking,
Yeah.
well, Jeff, great way to end with high motivation. We're all going to be forgotten. No, here's the challenge. It's your living legacy.
Yeah.
It's what you're going to do right now with the leadership role that you have.
Yeah, for sure.
You literally have a chance to transform a life.
Mm.
I don't know how does it get any better than that?
Yeah, man. Oh, that's so good. That's so good, man. Thanks for that encouragement, man. That is such a great encouragement, and I just want to encourage all of our listeners to make sure that they go out and pre-order the book, because when this podcast comes out, it'll still be in pre-order, right? I mean, yeah, because when is the book being released? June 17th?
June 17th is the official release. If they pre-order, there's some nice bonuses in it for them.
That's awesome. And where should they go to buy the book? What's the best place?
Firmfeedbackbook.com. Firmfeedbackbook.com.
Awesome.
If you order before June 17th, you get the bonuses, exclusive interviews, Q&As with me.
Love
You
it.
get the leadership playbook, which is these questions.
Yeah.
52 weeks of the best leadership questions,
Awesome.
why you should ask the questions and what to expect from the questions.
Love
And
it.
then you get access to our book launch team. So
Love
we're
it.
doing live webinars, live Q&As. All
Awesome.
that comes with the purchase of one book.
All right.
So firmfeedbackbook.com. I would love to serve you in this way.
I love it, Jeff. Well, we will put that website in the show notes. So if you're driving, if you're working out, you can't get to the show notes right now, come back to the show notes and we'll have the link to the book and all of the bonuses in the show notes. So, Jeff, thank you so much, my friend. It's great to have you on once again, and I just am so proud of you and so excited for this book. Can't wait to get it in my hands, man.
Well, thank you, David. You've been a great mentor to me, and thank you to all the listeners for listening in and giving us your time.
Right on.